Now, Your Honour, as always, a particular welcome to the mother of all talk shows, and there's so much to talk about with you, legal issues as well as broader political ones. But may I start with the $64,000 question, as you used to call it, when $64,000 was more than it is today. Is anybody going to jail? Is anybody going to jail for Epstein, for Russiagate? I mean, I keep hearing about grand juries and threats to deal with these people. Or has your country accepted that it's no longer a country of law?
It is no longer a country of law. I'm sorry to say it. I don't know what the Attorney General thinks she's doing, but the statute of limitations says long run. Trump's attorneys general, he had two of them, during his first term would have been in a position to have prosecuted those who perpetrated Russiagate. But the statute of limitations, George, is 5 years. And these events, assuming they occurred as we believe they did, took place in 2015, 2016, and 2017. So they are time barred. They are well outside the statute of limitations. They would not have been outside the statute of limitations when John Durham, who was the special counsel investigating the investigators, was doing his work, or when William Barr, who was the attorney general at the time, the second of Trump's two attorneys general, but the attorney general after the Russiagate was concluded, he could have done something about it. But they waited the 4 years while Biden was in office. Now they've impaneled a grand jury. The grand jury's in the wrong city because these events occurred in Washington. It's sitting in Miami. Don't even ask me why. I haven't the slightest idea. But more importantly, there's nobody left to indict. On Epstein, I don't know what's going to happen. Much to Trump's dismay, the White House is pulling their hair out over this, but they won't admit it. Republicans in the House of Representatives have succeeded in issuing a subpoena to the Justice Department for the entire Epstein report. Now, that is probably about 250,000 pages if all of it is printed. A lot of it is not printed, it's digital. But it's a tremendous amount of material. The only thing they can refuse to submit are the names of the victims, so they've been told to redact the names of the victims. But everybody else's name that's in there, whether they're innocent bystanders or actual participants in these nefarious events that Epstein concocted, all of that is going to be in the hands of the House Oversight Committee. Now, that committee has a staff. The staff has investigators. The investigators are ex-FBI agents. They are familiar with these files. They know exactly what, not these very files, but this type of file, and they know exactly what they're looking for. This committee has also subpoenaed the 6 most recent attorneys general of the United States, going back to the George W. Bush administration in both parties. They've subpoenaed Bill and Hillary Clinton. What does Hillary Clinton know about Epstein? Did Bill whisper into her ear what he did when he returned from Epstein's island? God only knows. But these people do not have immunity. They'll have to answer questions. Could you imagine the sight of an American president, former president, invoking the Fifth Amendment privilege against self-incrimination? Would be quite a sight, but that's what we may be witnessing very soon in August and September coming up.
We'll come back to Clinton, I promise, because I despise the Democrats and the Republicans equally just the same. So
same
I
here.
pivot
Same here,
only
George.
for this purpose. It is said that Donald Trump's name appears on 100,000 of these documents, which, if true, would make him, maybe next to Bill Clinton, easily the most often mentioned buddy of Epstein. And now, of course, you're right, and you made the caveat. You could be a buddy of Epstein, but not have actually committed any crimes or failed to report any crimes that he committed that you knew of, but 100,000 mentions is a lot of trouble for Donald Trump, and explains why he made this extraordinary U-turn from drain the swamp to the swamp's not important after all. Don't you think?
Well, I had not heard until I just heard it from you about 100,000 mentions. I don't know how many mentions there are, but I do believe that politically he is irretrievably damaged just for having been a bystander at these tawdry events. I don't know of any allegations against him. I may have given that impression the last time I was on with you, but I don't know of any credible allegations against him for criminal or even inappropriate sexual behavior. But if his name is mentioned a lot there, then people will start to ask, as you just did, how could he not have known what was going on? And since it involved children, did he not have a moral compass to put a stop to it, or at least to call the police? There's a lot more of this to come out. Like I said, the White House is pulling its hair. The last thing they wanted was this subpoena. One would have expected that the Democrats would have subpoenaed this document or these documents in order to embarrass him, but it's his own Republicans that are doing so. So I share your antipathy for both parties. They're both in favor of war. They're both in favor of big government. Neither of them is in favor of the freedom of speech. They're both in favor of giving Israel whatever it wants. They're both in favor of continuing to fund a losing cause in Ukraine. They're equally as culpable. But MAGA, the Make America Great Again political base of the president, is putting tremendous pressure on Republican members of the House of Representatives, and that pressure reached a boiling point this week when Republicans voted to issue this subpoena. I was surprised the subpoena is so broad. It commands everything except the names of the victims. Now, you may ask me, can they get it? Well, in Trump's first term, the Democrats ran the House and they subpoenaed his tax returns when he was a private citizen. That had nothing to do with congressional business. The case went all the way to the Supreme Court. The Supreme Court of the United States ruled unanimously Congress can subpoena whatever it wants. So Trump lost that case. His tax returns were exposed. It turned out that in years in which he said he earned billions, he paid $750 in income tax. I'm not here to besmirch him on his income taxes. God bless him if he knows how to reduce his taxable income. But I am here to say that the Supreme Court is on record of saying Congress can get whatever it wants. So Bill Clinton may not want to testify. Hillary Clinton may not want to testify. Pam Bondi, the Attorney General, may not want to surrender the report. They will have no choice but to testify and to surrender the full Epstein file, with the exception of the names of the victims.
Well, just again, for the avoidance of doubt, like you just did, I don't myself believe that Trump was guilty of any crimes in relation to the Epstein affair. Because if he were, the Democrats over the last 4 years would have told us so. They would have. They did everything, bar killing him. They took him on bogus journeys through the courts. They would have done anything to stop Donald Trump's second coming. And if there was evidence of crimes by Trump in relation to the Epstein affair, they would have acted on it. I myself am sure of that. What I equally,
I agree with you entirely.
What I equally think is that if you were as close to Epstein as to be mentioned in 100,000 documents, it is an astounding act of stupidity if you are going to claim you had no idea that this fellow was a criminal, that this fellow was a moral sink of depravity. And then you see videos of Donald Trump describing sleeping with 17-year-old girls as his personal alcoholism. So I think we know about Donald Trump's personal morals, and that will have been what drew him to Epstein so many times over so many years, more than 20 years. So he didn't blow the whistle on him, is my point. He didn't call the police on him. If I knew somebody was doing the things that we now know Epstein was doing, I would certainly consider it my duty to try to put a stop to it, and if it would not stop, to bring it to the attention of the police. But Judge, I said I'd come back to Clinton. Clinton was on the island. I think it's common ground now. Was on the island 39 times. What could he have been doing on that island with the pervert Jeffrey Epstein, if not himself being involved in nefarious activities?
Well, the 39 times is well documented, George, because of the times that he flew in Epstein's private jet. I don't know how the former president can deny that. If he does, he'll be lying under oath, or at least materially contradicted by the hard evidence. He has an even more difficult explanation to make, and I don't know what that explanation is going to be. How could he not have known what was going on? Look, George, in the file, according to the Attorney General, are many, many, many videotapes. Epstein was a fanatic for videotaping things. So God only knows who is on those videotapes. But the ex-FBI agents now working for the House Oversight Committee will soon be viewing those tapes. Could you imagine if during his public interrogation with international television watching, the interrogators play those tapes and show him on? And I'm speaking of Bill Clinton now, not Donald Trump. This, of course, will be devastating for what remains of his legacy. But if I could just veer off for a minute, I think the damage to Trump could very well be very severe, and this will bleed out into the Republicans. This will cause, for better or for worse, the Democrats to take control of the House. Forget about their shenanigans in Texas. I think there's going to be, and I could be wrong, it's more than a year from now, a Democratic wave in 2026, which will be a nightmare for Donald Trump because they'll probably impeach him again if they control the House. And a lot of this will come about because the MAGA people will not vote for Trump-financed and Trump-designated candidates because of their fury over Epstein.
Yeah, I mean, I saw some polling today, Judge, that showed numbers in the high 80s. MAGA Republicans, 82%. Non-MAGA, but Republicans, 85%. And Democrats in the high 80s and one segment in the 90s. There's overwhelming public support in America for full revelation of the Epstein files. And Donald Trump is the man that is standing like King Canute, telling the waves to go back. One last question on this field, and if you can give me time, I'd like to ask you about something else. But on this field, doesn't what I'm about to say encapsulate the extraordinary, freakish nature of things amongst the Washington political elite? The Obamas have just sold their luxury weekend accommodation in the Hamptons to who? To Les Wexner, whose personal money man was Jeffrey Epstein. Wexner has bought the Obamas' property at well over the asking price. I mean, You're an honourable judge of great standing, but if you smelt that, wouldn't you think something was fishy about it?
Yes, you would. I had not heard that, George, and you can't make that up. I'm going to assume that your sources are credible. This has not been reported in the United States unless this happened in the past half hour while we've been together. But you're right. The
but it
swamp
happened in the last
United
24
States
hours.
is
Yeah,
deep and disgusting.
it is. Now, you mentioned the losing war in Ukraine, and I, of course, wholly concur with that. But I'm wondering what to make of the United States' rapidly veering from side to side attitude to it. You know, Trump humiliated Zelensky in the Oval Office. He called him a dictator before Zelensky arrived. He said he had no cards to his face. He said to Zelensky, "You're gambling with World War III," to his face in the Oval Office. And then the next thing you know, he's ready to take us to the brink of nuclear war in defense of Zelensky's administration and Zelensky's regime. He's going to condignly punish countries like India. Yesterday, he's fallen out with allies all over the world over this, and now he's telling us that Witkoff may have pulled some rabbit out of the hat. We haven't seen the rabbit yet, but if Trump's hyperbole is even half accurate, we're on our way to a settlement. What do you make of it all?
I don't make much of it at all, and I don't think Trump's words are credible. I read what he said after Mr. Witkoff spent 3 hours with Vladimir Putin. I'm going to suggest to you that Putin may have reduced his demands from 5 down to 2, but those 2 would be an immediate evacuation of the Ukraine military and the Ukraine government offices from the parts of Ukraine that have been traditionally Russian, and an absolute ironclad commitment that Ukraine will never join NATO. Now, if President Zelensky does that, he'll have a hard time getting home at night because the hardline nationalists for whom he is a puppet will see that his days are over. So he's really caught between a rock and a hard place. Trump has been saying over and over again that Ukraine is Joe Biden's war. It is now Donald Trump's war. No question about it, George.
Extraordinary. And finally, and I'm very grateful for the time you've given us. I know you have many other commitments. The Israelis have asked the United States to send troops to help them reoccupy Gaza. This in the face of the head of the army, the chief of staff of the Israeli army, outright refusing Netanyahu's order to reoccupy the Strip on the grounds that he doesn't have enough soldiers, that the task is beyond Israeli forces alone, and that it would take between 1 and 2 years to achieve, even if it could be achieved. Israel, therefore, is asking the United States not just to pay for everything, not just to protect everything in the UN and elsewhere, but now to be a party to the crime, directly, with boots on the ground. Surely that would be a bridge too far, even for the American political class.
It would be immensely unpopular here in the United States. Theoretically, it couldn't be done without asking Congress, but Trump doesn't follow the Constitution or the federal laws. But right now, the slaughter and the starvation in Gaza are immensely unpopular here. I'm talking about 80% to 20%. And many of that 80% are American Jews who condemn this. The 20% that support it are the Mike Johnson, Mike Huckabee types who have a perverse, in my view, I'm like you, an old-fashioned Roman Catholic. These people have a perverse view of Christianity, that somehow the God of Abraham mandates that Benjamin Netanyahu run Israel. This is absurd. Ted Cruz told this to our friend Tucker Carlson. But back to whether or not American troops will go, Trump would totally undermine his credibility and his base if he were to do that.